Today I'll be showing you how to make and use score lines in Cricut Design Space, and I'll also be showing you how to make single line cuts. So to do that, we'll be making a very simple greeting card that will be able to hold a gift card. And we're also going to be talking about the scoring stylus and the scoring wheels. If we're just meeting right now, hi, my name is Nisha. Welcome to Little Craft Nest. And if you're returning, welcome back to another crafting adventure. Let's jump onto the computer and get started. We're going to open up a new project in Cricut Design Space, and the first thing we're going to do is head over to Shapes and grab a square. So this is going to be the base of our card. So let's resize this. So go up to the top under size, click unlock, and we're going to make this a width of 8 inches and a height of 5 inches. Let's change the color of this. Let's just make it a light blue for now. You can always change the color later, or you can just put a different color of cardstock on your mat when you go to cut your card out. Now I want my card to be able to fold in half easily without having to manually do that. So I'd like my Cricut to draw a score line down the middle. So what we're gonna do is go over to Shapes. In that very first shape there's a line going straight down. And if you have your mouse over top of it, it will say score line. So click on that score line and grab it. Sometimes it's hard to see because the score line kind of blends in with all the other lines on your desktop here. So we're going to put this over top of our card. And that top square, I'm gonna line that up with the top edge of my card. And then I'm gonna put my cursor over that bottom square and stretch this line all the way down to the bottom of the card. Now, I didn't exactly center this. My right side looks bigger than my left side. So let's go ahead and center this line. So I'm gonna select the card and the score line. You can see in the layers column that I have both selected because both of those layers are highlighted in green. And then I'm gonna go up to align and we're gonna click on center. Now our score line is perfectly centered in the middle of the card. Now, if I were to go and press make right now, I'm not gonna save this right now, you'll notice on our first mat, we have the score line, and the second mat, we have our cutout piece of cardstock. And that's not what we want at all. We want that score line going down the center of our card. So let's click on cancel. And what you're going to do is select your score line and your rectangle, and then go down to the bottom right of the layers panel and click on attach. So now when we go and click on make, your score line will be right there in the center of your card, exactly where you want it. But we're gonna do a few more things to this card so it's not so boring. So I'm gonna click on cancel. Now when I gift this card, I want to have the gift card right on the front of the card. So let's make a template for that. So go back over to Shapes, and this time I'm gonna click on the rectangle with the rounded corners here because most gift cards do have rounded corners. So the width of a typical gift card or a credit card is a width of 3.37 inches, and we're gonna make the height 2.125 inches. And then click return or enter on your keyboard. So this right here is the size of our gift card, and I want this to go right on the front of my card. We're not actually going to cut out this rectangle shape. I'm just using this as a template so I know where to put my cut lines. So we're going to go back over to Shapes, grab that score line again, and you'll notice under operation, if you go over to the top right here, it says score. So you're telling your Cricut machine, this is not a cut line, it is a score line, but we're gonna change this to a cut line. So in order to do that, under operation, we're gonna click on score there, and we're gonna change this to a basic cut. So under cut, click on basic. And now Design Space will communicate with your Cricut machine that you want this line cut and not to be a score line. So right now this line is 2.5 inches long, and that's kind of big. So let's shrink it down a little bit. And I'm also gonna make this gift card another color because it's gonna be really hard to see this dark line over this dark shape. So let's just make that purple. So I'm gonna grab my score line here. We're gonna drag it over to our gift card. So you can see that there on top, but I want to rotate this line a little bit. So under rotate, we're gonna change this to a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna move it up here gonna stretch it out a little bigger. I think I made it a little small. There we go. So I have the ends of the line here just going over the card, and it's on a perfect angle. So I'm going to click on that line again, and we're going to duplicate it. So above the layers panel, you can click on duplicate. And this time I'm going to bring this score line down to this corner here. And there we go. It looks like our gift card should be able to fit in there. Now, make sure your cut line is not going over your score line. Make sure it's not going all the way from one end of your card to the other end of your card, because otherwise your Cricut machine's just gonna chop off the corner of that card. So make sure there is space in between there. You may want to play around a little bit, adjust it until you're happy with where those lines are. So we got our score lines on there. Now, like I said before, we're not going to cut this rectangle out. So you could either go to the layers panel, and beside that rectangle layer, you can click on that eye to hide it, or you can just delete the layer altogether. That is totally up to you. Now, if I were to press make right now, these lines would be separated from the card. So once again, we need to select our card and those cut lines that we just made and go down to the bottom right and click on attach. So now everything will cut out the way we want it to. But this is still kind of a boring card, so let's just add a happy birthday to the top just so it's not so plain. So I'm gonna go over to text, type out happy birthday. I'm gonna change the font. Let's use a Cricut font. I'm gonna use Battle Cry, and that looks like a fun birthday font, even though it is called Battle Cry. It still looks pretty happy to me. So I'm gonna shrink this down here, and we'll have these letters cut out with cardstock as well, but let's make an offset first. So let's go up to the top, click on offset. You'll notice that blue line going around our text. You can make that offset bigger if you wanted, or drag it towards the center to make it a little smaller. It's up to you how big you want that to be, and then click on apply. So once again, you can change these colors around if you want. So it's up to you. You can sort through your cardstock, see what colors you have, and decide how you want this to cut out. Now, because we are cutting out happy birthday and this offset here separately, we're not going to attach that to our card. So this will be on one mat, and we will cut out our happy birthday text and our offset on a separate mat. So this is a very simple birthday card. You could add a whole lot more detail to this if you wanted to and get a whole lot more creative, but I thought we'd keep it simple for today. So let's go ahead and click on make and see how this all turns out, and I'm going to show you how to get that score line nicely in the middle. So let's click on make, and so we have our first mat here, our second mat, and our third mat. Now, I don't feel like putting 3 mats in my machine, so I'm actually going to move my happy birthday text over to my second mat. So I'm going to click on those 3 little lines there, click on move object, and then click on that dark purple mat and click confirm. So now I have my text here on the second mat, and I have my offset here. So you can go ahead and place 2 different colors of cardstock on this mat. You can move your pieces around if you want. So when I put my cardstock on my mat, I know my first piece needs to go in the corner, and my second piece of cardstock needs to start at the 5-inch mark if I was using a different color. If I wanted them to be the same color, I could just put one single piece of cardstock on here. So now let's go and click continue again, and let's go ahead and click on that first mat again so that we're cutting out this one first. So before our Cricut cuts this out, we do need to set our base material. So I normally use medium cardstock, and I will use that today, but I want to show you what happens when you click on heavy cardstock. So when we look at step number 2 here, it says load tools and materials. If you have a Cricut Maker machine and you have the scoring wheel tools, you will be able to put your scoring wheel into clamp B. So because I chose a heavy cardstock, Design Space is suggesting that I use the double scoring wheel. I don't use heavy cardstock too often, but once in a while I do. But if you didn't want to use the double scoring wheel, or maybe you don't have the double scoring wheel, you can click on Edit Tools. So here you could change that to the single scoring wheel if you have that one, or you can change that to the scoring stylus. Now, if you have the Cricut Explore, you're not going to be able to use the scoring wheels because they are special attachments for the Maker machine, but you will be able to use the scoring stylus. So if you're using your Cricut Explore, Design Space is not even going to give you the option to use a scoring wheel. You will have to use the scoring stylus in your machine. Now, another thing you can do is if suddenly you decided, I don't want that to be a score line, I want that to be a cut line, you can change that right here as well. But normally that's not something you're gonna do, but I just wanted to let you know that you do have that option there. So I'm gonna click the X. So I'm gonna go back to step number 1 and click on base material, and we're gonna set this to the medium cardstock. So now you'll notice if we go to step number 2 and you click on Edit Tools, it's not even gonna give you the option for the double scoring wheel. So if you want to use that double scoring wheel, even though you're using medium cardstock, you will need to choose the heavy cardstock setting, because right now I only have the single scoring wheel or the scoring stylus as an option. So I'm gonna click on the X. So right now, automatically, because I have a Cricut Maker, it has selected the scoring wheel. And so this gets loaded into clamp B. However, if I change this over to the scoring stylus and click apply, you will need to load this into clamp A. So that will also be the same for the Cricut Explore. Your scoring stylus would go into clamp A. So let's change this back to the scoring wheel because that's what I'm gonna use, and then click on apply. So you'll also notice that if you're using the scoring wheel, that means you have to take your blade out of your machine. So once your machine has finished scoring your card, you will then remove the scoring wheel and insert your blade. If you're using the scoring stylus, because it's in clamp A, you will not be prompted to change out any tools halfway through your project. So let's get a project cut out. I'm using this bright blue color for my card. And if you have trouble getting your cardstock to stick to your mat, maybe your mat's not that sticky anymore, I highly suggest to use a brayer. This tool is amazing. And once you have one, you'll be wondering why you never got one before. It really helps get that material to stick really well on your mat. And when you're using vinyl, it helps to get those wrinkles out as well. Once you've taken your blade out, you can insert your scoring wheel. Then your machine will detect the scoring wheel to make sure you have inserted the right tool. Once your Cricut machine has drawn the score line on your cardstock, you will then be prompted to take out your scoring wheel and put back in your blade. However, if you're using the scoring stylus, you won't need to make any switches. After your card has cut out, you'll be able to fold it along the score line. I like to fold mine once one way and then the other way, just to make sure it has a really nice crease. And then you can go ahead and get your other card details cut out. I added some foam squares to the back of my offset and then added that to the card. And I took out my precision art glue so I could glue all the tiny little letters and stick those on top of the offset. And then when you have finished decorating your card, you can insert your gift card into those tiny little cut lines that we made. And although this is a very simple card, it still looks great and would be a fun way to give a gift card. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you on more crafting adventures.